So don't forget to follow me on Instagram, High Carb Health. Hit the follow button and click on the green H to see what I get up to. What I eat, what I do, it's all here. You can follow me on what I eat as well. So check it out, guys. Hey everyone, today we are here with Dr. Luke Wilson. Hello mate, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Nice.
Dr. Luke Wilson is a GP in Wellington.
That's correct, yeah.
Most well known for publishing a randomized controlled trial called the Broad Study, but many other things as well. 2 Zesty Bananas.
Yeah.
Is your main kind of endeavor at the moment. You can check out everything about Dr. Luke in the description below. But just to get started, I'd love to just chat to you about why you chose to change to a plant-based diet. Because, like most of us, you went plant-based for life. So yeah, let's just learn about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually a vegetarian before I became whole food plant-based, and I had a pet lamb when I was a kid, and this was when I was about 4 or so.
Yeah.
And I found out what was going to happen to it when it went back to the farm, and at that point I decided I wouldn't have any meat anymore. But my parents wanted me to, they were worried about nutrition, kind of ironically, and they wanted me to still have things like plenty of dairy and eggs and a bit of fish to make sure I got my iron and protein and all these kinds of things. So that was really where I was at when I found out about whole foods plant-based, which interestingly wasn't until I think my 3rd year of medical school that I started reading about that. So it wasn't anything to do with medical school, because everyone always gets excited at that point and they're like, oh wow, they taught you about plant-based at medical school. No, they didn't. I was reading, of all things, a Real Clear Politics, because this is around the time that President Obama was doing his healthcare reform. And I was reading about that, being a bit geeky, and I scrolled down in the comments, which you're not usually supposed to do, but it was a very good thing for me, because someone mentioned in the comments, well, President Obama should read the China study, because this explains how we could deal with most of the health problems in America. And so I was like, what is the China study? Googled it, came up with, this is the biggest study of nutrition ever published, the kind of your Wikipedia article on it. And I'd always been interested in nutrition and health, and at that point I was, trying to go to the gym, and which I still do every now and then, and I was taking my protein supplements and everything, and I always thought, if only I could eat the lean chicken and the protein that the meat eaters eat, then I'd be able to be on the cover of Men's Health or Men's Fitness or whatever. So I always thought that was kind of the missing link. But I kept doing what I was doing as far as being vegetarian, because it had just been the thing that I was always doing, and there was always in the back of my mind it's probably the right thing to do for, on the animal side of things at least. So found out about the China study, Googled it, read that little introduction to it, which fascinated me. So I Googled it again, found a link, downloaded it. Yeah, I still got that.
Do you want to be on record saying that?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sure T. Colin Campbell won't mind. I've seen enough people his way by now, and put quite a few of my friends onto it as well. But I mean, that book was just fascinating. I read it pretty much all in one go. And from that point onwards, I didn't touch the whey protein I had at home anymore. And then I started reading further on from that. He talks in there about Dr. Esselstyn, and that really fascinated me as a medical student, because we've been learning about cardiovascular disease. And basically what we were taught is, as you got older, your blood vessels just gradually got more and more clogged up. And at some stage, for some people, would be unlucky, and they'd have a heart attack from that, especially if you were smoking as well, or doing any of those other naughty things. So the idea that you could actually reverse what I saw as one of our most prominent diseases was huge. And I was like, well, if people have discovered how to cure this, why aren't they teaching me about this at medical school? So that really interested me. So that's sort of where I came onto it myself.
Okay, cool, mate. And so you were talking about the athletic performance side of things and the whey protein. What is it about dairy? Like, what is it about the protein in dairy that that is, I guess, damaging to the body?
Oh, there's lots of things, and I suppose that the most interesting thing for me, because in the China study, that's exactly what T. Colin Campbell's talking about, where he has his studies that he's done with casein. Actually, I think interestingly, I'm pretty sure I said whey protein before because that's usually what you get nowadays, but I think mine was actually like a triple blend, and it actually happened to have casein in it as well.
Okay.
And so I was like, right, we're definitely not touching that because that's going to give me cancer, which is not what I was after.
Yeah.
But so obviously the damaging part of it is the animal protein itself, I learned, and also that it's a concentrated nutrient is probably not a good idea. And of course, it's going to amp up things like your IGF-1, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was really interesting too because as a teenager, and even to this day, like I've had problems with my skin. And probably one of the reasons for that I learned was because I was consuming so much dairy. Because if you do a standard vegetarian diet, usually what that means is whatever you've taken out from sort of meat and well, it was just meat in my case, you sort of replace that with dairy and eggs and things, which are going to ramp up your IGF-1 and what it's associated with bad skin. And if I'd known that, I wish I'd sort of known it 10 years earlier and it would have made a big difference. But so for me, that's always been a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I used to struggle a lot with skin, especially I used to be on antibiotics for it, so it was pretty bad. But
I took some strong stuff on that. But
so, you touched on something very important, I think. IGF-1. Like, most people wouldn't know what you mean by IGF-1. So insulin-like growth factor 1. What is that, and what does it do to the body?
So basically, it's a growth hormone. So the way I like to explain it to people, and the way I sort of see it, sort of fitting in with what T. Colin Campbell talks about, is that it makes things grow. So I think there's a lot of people saying, that protein supplements, all this kind of stuff, it probably doesn't really do anything. It's probably not much use. I think probably, I don't think the bodybuilding community is that dumb, basically, put it that way, that they're all using something that doesn't do anything. I think there is probably an effect of it.
Yes.
And what it does is it does amp up that IGF-1, so it amps up that growth hormone.
Right.
And there might be other ways of doing it. Another way of doing it probably is taking steroids and that kind of thing. So what it's doing is it's probably unnaturally elevating that hormone, which is going to make things grow in the body. If you've got a cancer there, it's going to make that grow as well. And so that's probably not an optimal kind of way of getting to where you're going. So that's kind of how I think of it. And that's, IGF-1's involved in other things as well, but people can Google that because,
I think there's
a bit of extra for experts, but basically it makes things grow.
There's a really good video by Dr. Grigor actually on IGF-1, and we'll probably link that in the description below. So if anyone's interested in learning more about insulin-like growth factor and how it plays a massive role in the growth of cancer cells. We'll link a description to that video.
I think it's associated with aging and things like that as well. And then there's also that, remember a couple of years ago, there's that thing about kids don't grow as tall if they're having plant-based milks versus, and so probably, that could be involved in that as well. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily a good thing. We actually know that taller people are more likely to die earlier and things. So, and that's probably part of the reason.
So in closing, why would you recommend to any of your patients or anybody who comes and talks to you about nutrition, why would you recommend choosing a plant-based diet over eating animals?
Basically, like it's the best thing you can do for your health. And we know, if you come to your doctor, then of course we're always worried about what's going to happen to you, sort of when you're down the track. So are you going to get cardiovascular disease? Are you going to get cancer? Are you going to get type 2 diabetes? Even, autoimmune conditions? Any of those things. So we're always thinking about that. So that's kind of like a no-brainer from a doctor's perspective. If we've got plenty of evidence, which we do have, showing that it's that your animal products are going to increase people's risk of that. And all the time I have people coming in to see me and they're like, oh, what can we do for our health? We really want a health checkup. And what's the best thing I can be doing? And usually what I'm trying to say to them is like, I can run all these tests, but my tests that I have don't tell me whether you're healthy or not. The best thing that tells me whether you're going to be healthy in the long term is what you're eating. And so then I, recommend them to check out, say, Dr. Ornish's book or Dr. Grigor's website or his book or anything like that. So from that perspective, from the prevention of disease perspective, it's great. But also I think just generally, if we look at the composition of animal products versus the composition of plant-based foods. And so plant-based foods are going to give you advantages nutritionally on so many levels. As far as basically the way I explain it to people is it's full of the stuff that's good for you, and it has none of the stuff that we guess is well, that we know is bad for people. And particularly, you know, so even when we have disagreements about what people should be eating, and you know, there's people that advocate a more paleo diet, or there's people that advocate, you know, more plant-based or whatever, or Mediterranean diet. The thing that all of those have in common is that they're very high, when it's done well, when it's done healthy, they're very high in plant foods. And that's because plant foods provide all your antioxidants, your vitamins, your micronutrients. They're full of water and fiber and things like that people aren't getting enough of. They have the right amounts of protein. Not too much, not too little, and they have the carbohydrates, which is the number one source of, you know, energy for the body. That's what we thrive on. That's what we're designed to, you know, designed or evolved to thrive on. So
the optimal fuel, isn't it?
Exactly, it's the optimal fuel for the body. And so, like I said, everything that you need, nothing that you don't need. Even where there's a bit of disagreement, there's no one's ever written a study saying that. You know, blueberries are bad for you, or there's no, you know, even when we hear things like the, you know, the dairy industry or whoever it is, or nutritionists saying, look, we don't know for sure that eggs are bad for you, or we don't know for sure that milk, but the fact is people aren't going out there and just doing studies at random. They're choosing things that they think might be bad for people, and then they're sometimes finding results and they're sometimes not, but most of the time they are. And if we take everything as a whole, we can see that animal products as a general group are detrimental to health, and plant-based products, or plant-based foods, are always health promoting.
Yeah, definitely.
And if anyone can find me a study that says otherwise, please send it to me.
Exactly what I was going to say. We are still waiting to find a study that says fruits and vegetables are bad for your health. We're still like waiting for it, you know, like we've asked this, so many people out there, find us a study, fruits and vegetables, they're bad for your health. Doesn't exist. So yeah, I think we'll close on that, mate. Fruits and vegetables. You can't find a study that tells you they're bad for you.
No. All right, so let's leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us, mate.
No
and you can find all of Dr. Luke's stuff down below.
Cool.
Thanks, mate. Such a bro shake. And he's head of... Dr. Luke Wilson's a GP in Wellington, and... What? Luke's just cracking out.
Keep going. Edit, that can come out. Yeah.